Do you know how a forgotten laborer, blind and poor, became the first living sign of healing at Lourdes, long before crowds, doctors, or pilgrims believed ever? In a time of doubt and reason, a simple man washed his wounded eye in silence, and something happened that science could not explain to anyone present. From suffering to faith, from darkness to sight, grace entered quietly and changed history forever in one hidden moment of mercy. This is the story of the Lourdes miracle of Louis Bouriette. Before beginning, drop an Ave Maria in the comments, like this video, and subscribe for more stories of Our Lady. Don't forget to share it so others may discover this story and be inspired to live holier lives. Chapter 1. Louis Bouriette and a Life of Poverty. Louis Bouriette was born in 1804 inches, Lourdes, into a poor working family that lived by the labor of their hands. Daily life followed simple routines marked by fatigue and uncertainty. Nothing about his birth promised distinction or security. Like countless laborers, he entered the world unnoticed. Poverty shaped his character early, teaching humility, endurance, and quiet hope, foundations that would later give deeper meaning to the events that transformed his life. He grew up amid the harsh landscapes of the Pyrenees Mountains, where survival demanded strength and perseverance. Families labored daily against cold, stone, and fatigue. Childhood offered little comfort and few choices. Work began early, shaping bodies and spirits alike. In such conditions, dreams were modest, and faith became a quiet refuge. This demanding environment taught endurance, patience, and reliance on God alone for each passing day of their lives there always. Stone-cutting became his trade, offering bread but carrying constant danger. The work demanded precision, strength, and long hours under strain. Every blow of the hammer risked injury. Dust filled the air, and accidents were common among laborers. Louis accepted these risks as necessary for survival. His work was honest, exhausting, and largely unseen by society. This fragile livelihood left no margin for misfortune or weakness in daily life for his family alone. One day, a serious workplace accident changed everything. A violent fragment struck his eye with devastating force. Pain, darkness, and fear followed immediately. Medical care was limited, and recovery proved impossible. Louis permanently lost sight in one eye. This injury was not temporary, but a lifelong wound. In a single moment, his future narrowed under the weight of disability and silent suffering, endured daily without complaint before God and his neighbors quietly. Blindness reduced his ability to work and earn wages. Daily tasks became heavier, slower, and more uncertain. Dependence increased, pressing upon his family life. Poverty deepened, and vulnerability became constant. For a laborer, disability meant fragility without protection. Louis carried this burden quietly, without bitterness or revolt. His suffering remained hidden, known mostly within his household, and entrusted daily to divine mercy through prayer and endurance alone, sustained by quiet hope always. Louis had little formal education and no social influence. He did not belong to circles of power or learning. His voice carried no weight in public matters. Like many workers, he lived unseen by authorities and elites. History rarely records lives like his, yet such hidden lives sustained communities and families. Louis stands as a witness to the forgotten poor of his time, whose dignity rests in God alone and unseen often. Despite hardship, Louis remained rooted in a simple Catholic faith. He attended parish life as his strength allowed. Prayer shaped his days more than words or arguments. He trusted God without explanation or demands. Popular devotions and quiet hope sustained his heart. This faith was not dramatic, but faithful and enduring. In silence, Louis carried a trust that prepared him for grace beyond anything he could imagine in his lifetime yet unknown. Chapter 2. Lourdes, France, in 1858. Lourdes in the mid-19th century was a small and poor town, quiet and largely forgotten. It lived from manual labor, small trades, and seasonal work. There were no shrines, no pilgrims, no expectations of miracles. Faith survived in ordinary parish life, shaped by routine rather than wonder. Daily hardship formed the rhythm of existence, and few imagined that this hidden place would soon draw the gaze of the entire world today. France at that time was deeply marked by rationalism and growing religious skepticism. Enlightenment ideas continued to shape public thought, encouraging trust in reason alone. Faith was often viewed as outdated or naive. Miracles were dismissed as superstition. In such a climate, religious claims faced suspicion rather than reverence. Believers practiced quietly, sometimes defensively, holding their faith without public confidence, while the church learned patience amid doubt and cultural distance and tension. Massabielle was a rocky grotto on the edge of town, avoided and misunderstood. Locals considered it unclean, a place for animals and refuse. Children played there, but adults stayed away. No prayers were offered, no candles lit, nothing suggested holiness. It was a place of neglect and marginality. Precisely this forgotten setting reflected the spiritual poverty of the time, waiting silently for a divine initiative beyond human expectation and unseen grace alone. The apparitions to Bernadette Soubirous shattered this familiar order. A poor, uneducated girl claimed to see a lady of light. Her testimony disturbed families, clergy, and officials alike. Crowds gathered, whispers spread, and daily routines were disrupted. Lourdes could no longer remain indifferent. The ordinary was interrupted by mystery. Through Bernadette, God chose simplicity to challenge certainty and invite hearts to listen beyond appearances, with humility, silence, trust, patience, courage, faith, hope. At the lady's instruction, a spring emerged from the ground. The water appeared insignificant, muddy at first, unimpressive to reason, yet people sensed meaning. Some hoped for healing, others doubted intensely. The water became a sign that demanded interpretation. It stirred faith and resistance together. Hope rose among the suffering, while critics warned against illusion. The spring quietly questioned whether grace might flow where weakness seemed most visible to human eyes alone. Civil authorities and intellectual voices reacted with caution and suspicion. Order had to be preserved, and claims examined critically. Medical opinions were sought, crowds monitored, statements recorded. Many feared fanaticism or social unrest. The events were observed rather than embraced. Reason demanded proof, not trust. This vigilance reflected the age itself, measuring faith against control and grace against administrative boundaries, while waiting to see whether the excitement would fade quietly, slowly, completely. Within this tense setting, the suffering poor began to hope. Those burdened by illness, disability, and poverty listened differently. For people like Louis Bouriette, the spring was not theory, but possibility. It offered dignity to pain, long ignored. In a world skeptical of miracles, the weak dared to trust. A small light appeared, suggesting that God still saw them, and that mercy might touch even forgotten lives with quiet faith, patience, hope. Chapter 3. The Healing of Louis Bouriette. Louis decided to go to the Massabielle grotto not out of curiosity, but from a hidden hope carried quietly within his heart. Years of suffering had taught him restraint rather than expectation. He did not chase wonders or signs. He simply trusted that God might still see him. This decision was not dramatic. It was a small step of faith, born from poverty, pain, and a longing for mercy. and humble trust. For a man blind in one eye, the journey to the grotto demanded both physical effort and inner courage. Uneven paths, cold air, and uncertainty accompanied each step. Pain slowed him, and fear whispered doubts. Yet he continued forward patiently. His weakness shaped the pilgrimage itself. Each movement became a prayer, and every breath an offering, as he carried his fragile body toward a place he barely understood, with quiet perseverance always. Louis brought no formal ritual, no public vow, and no dramatic plea. He did not announce his presence or draw attention to himself. There were no witnesses surrounding him, no words spoken aloud. His approach was simple and unadorned. Like many poor believers, he carried his prayer inward. What mattered was not how he asked, but the trust with which he stood before God, in humility and silent surrender of the heart. In the quiet of the rocky grotto, Louis bent down and washed his blind eye with the spring water. The act was gentle and ordinary, without expectation of immediate change. Water touched skin, stone echoed softly, and silence remained. No voice spoke, no vision appeared. In that hidden moment, grace moved unseen. What followed was not gradual improvement, but something sudden and unmistakable beyond all human planning and understanding or explanation whatsoever. The healing happened instantly, without delay or medical process. The darkness that had ruled his eye for years disappeared at once. There was no pain, no recovery period, no treatment applied. What had been damaged beyond repair was restored in a moment. This was not the result of human skill or natural cause. It stood outside every explanation known to medicine, reason, or experience, and defied expectation entirely in every possible sense. Louis immediately realized that his sight had fully returned. Shapes, light, and movement became clear once more. He tested his vision carefully, aware of the gravity of the moment. There was no confusion or illusion. He knew his eye had been healed. The certainty was calm, not overwhelming. He stood quietly, absorbing what had happened, aware that his life had been changed forever by grace beyond human expectation alone and comprehension itself. Louis did not proclaim himself special or seek attention afterward. He did not claim credit or attempt to explain the miracle. Gratitude filled him more than astonishment. He understood that the gift was not about him. He remained a poor laborer, now healed, but unchanged in humility. The miracle pointed beyond his story. In silence, he allowed God alone to remain at the center of what had occurred, without pride or display. Chapter 4: Medical Examination and the Church's Confirmation. Immediately after the event, Louis Bouriette was taken to be examined by local physicians. They approached him without reverence or hostility, only professional caution. His condition before the healing was questioned carefully, and his eye inspected with seriousness. This step mattered greatly, because truth in the Church never begins with enthusiasm. It begins with facts, patience, and respect for reason, ensuring that faith never contradicts honesty or human knowledge and discernment together. Medical records confirmed that Louis had been blind in one eye for many years. Witnesses testified to the permanence of his injury and the limits it imposed on his work. This was not a recent illness or a passing weakness. The damage had been judged irreversible. Such documentation anchored the investigation in reality, guarding against exaggeration. The Church listens first to verified suffering, before ever speaking of grace or miracle claims publicly. No trace of prior treatment could be found in his case. There had been no surgery, no medication, no hidden intervention, nor was there any medical explanation suggesting spontaneous recovery. The eye had not slowly improved, but changed instantly. This absence of natural cause was essential. Without it, wonder could easily become illusion. The investigation required that every ordinary explanation be exhausted before acknowledging the extraordinary as truly beyond human capacity alone. Faced with these facts, the medical community could offer no reasonable scientific explanation. Skepticism remained, but certainty eluded them. Medicine could describe what had happened, but not why. This honest limitation was crucial. The Church does not ask science to lie, only to speak truthfully. When reason reaches its boundary, it does not collapse. It simply stands still, leaving room for mystery without fear or emotional pressure, haste, spectacle, exaggeration, confusion, bias. The Church, for her part, refused to rush toward proclamation. Authorities gathered testimonies, compared timelines, and reviewed medical judgments slowly. This careful pace protected the faithful from deception. Authentic miracles never fear examination. Discernment is an act of charity toward truth. By waiting, the Church honored both reason and faith, showing that divine grace never demands haste and that God's works endure calm scrutiny over time without pressure, spectacle, excitement, rumor, manipulation. Louis himself was examined as closely as the event. His character, honesty, and spiritual life were questioned. Investigators sought signs of exaggeration or deceit and found none. He gained nothing by lying. His humility remained unchanged. He did not seek attention or reward. This consistency strengthened credibility. The miracle did not elevate his status, but revealed a man whose life aligned quietly with the truth he proclaimed, without self-interest, ambition, calculation, performance. In the end, the healing was recognized as a sign of God's grace. It was not attributed to emotion, suggestion, or mass enthusiasm. The Church affirmed that something truly divine had occurred. Such recognition did not glorify Lourdes or Louis, but pointed beyond them. The miracle served as a sign, inviting faith and conversion. It reminded the world that God still acts gently, respecting freedom, reason, and the human heart always faithfully. Chapter 5. Lessons of Faith and a Prayer. The miracle reveals that God acts through the poor, the hidden, and the unnamed. Louis Bouriette possessed no power, education, or influence, yet grace touched him. This teaches that divine choice follows mercy, not merit. God enters history quietly, lifting those the world overlooks, reminding the Church that dignity does not depend on success, recognition, or strength, but on being seen and loved by Him. Simple faith and silent trust open the heart to grace. Louis did not argue, demand, or test God. Years of suffering shaped a prayer without words, marked by patience and surrender. Lourdes teaches that heaven responds not to eloquence or force, but to humility and perseverance. When faith waits quietly, it creates space where God may act freely, gently, and unexpectedly within ordinary lives daily. Every physical healing at Lourdes points beyond the body toward the wounded soul. Restored sight mirrors humanity's desire to see meaning again. Beneath illness lies fear, loss, and broken trust. God's mercy seeks wholeness, not spectacle. Miracles whisper that healing includes reconciliation, hope, and communion with God. Through grace, the human heart is gently restored, learning to trust, love, and see with faith again fully. Our Lady of Lourdes, teach us to come to you in humility and trust. Strip us of pride, fear, and demands. Help us place our wounds quietly before God, as Louis Bouriette did. When hope feels weak, strengthen it. When prayer feels dry, sustain it. Lead us patiently through uncertainty, teaching us to rely not on signs, but on faithful surrender to God's will alone. Remember, O Mother, those who suffer in body, mind, and spirit. Look with compassion upon the sick, the disabled, and the forgotten. Comfort families burdened by pain and uncertainty. Obtain for them patience, courage, and peace. May Lourdes remain a refuge where tears are welcomed and hope is reborn. Through your intercession, may suffering souls find strength to endure and trust God's loving presence always. Grant us, O Mother, hearts open to conversion. Do not let miracles pass without fruit in our lives. Help us change habits, forgive wounds, and return to God sincerely. May grace reshape our choices and desires. Teach us to walk in faith after wonder fades, carrying daily fidelity beyond moments of emotion, excitement, or fear, until faith becomes steadfast obedience rooted in love and hope. Lead us always to Jesus Christ, source of healing and salvation. May every grace draw us closer to His Sacred Heart. Teach us to recognize Him in suffering and joy alike. Through Him, shape our lives as witnesses of mercy. Keep us humble, faithful, and attentive to grace, until we behold Him face to face in eternal light, praising God with the saints forever joyfully. Amen.